my name is Natalia Lasarte. I'm from Tecnalia. That it's a Spanish research center located in Basque Country. Before giving the floor to Martin, just a few words about the Spanish pilot and about how this adventure started. Well, when we started to draft this project together with Novatec and other partners, we were pretty aware that the planned developments should be user-centered. That's to say, they needed to be tested, discussed, and also validated by the end users during the whole process. And besides, the end user had to represent the common renovation company of the construction sector in Spain. In other words, a small size company with a low level of digitization, which is the majority of the overview in the construction sector in Spain. We already knew Cursal, which is a renovation company focused on facade renovation, mainly working on Basque Country and north of Spain. They are an SME with a relatively low level of digitization, at least before starting the project. Now the situation has changed. However, they were willing to use digital tools for on-site works and adopt the BIM methodology in the company. I mean to improve the efficiency of the on-site process. Besides, they had a wide range of renovation works that could be available for the project. Soon, then we knew that they were the suitable candidates for demonstrate the BIM for rent tools in the Spain context. And from this point, we started to work together. Tecnalia has supported Cursal in the implementation of the BIM for rent workflows on tools and developments on the pilot size. But on the other hand, Cursal has helped Tecnalia as developer to test their solution, and they give us interesting feedback from the user perspective. This symbiosis has been very fruitful, not only for the success of the BIM for rent project, but for us as technological center, also for boosting the competitiveness of Basque companies such as Cursal, taking the benefits of the digitalization as a key driver. So thanks Cursal for embarking on this journey and for allowing us to learn together. Yes. And yeah, now I give the floor to Martin Osa to explain in detail the Word doc and especially the lesson learned along this project. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Natalia. Hello everyone. My name is Martin Osa. I am an engineer responsible of BIM projects inside Grupo Cursal. My objective in this presentation is to talk about the needs of a company like ours and how we have been able to test different tools, different BIM tools that have been developed within the framework of this project, and how we have been able to face different challenges that we have in our daily work. Okay, so for that we have done it through several pilots, and I will show you some of the activities that we have carried out and some conclusions that we have seen after testing them. First of all, I would like to explain briefly what is happening. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Whoopa. Okay, first of all, I would like to explain briefly the process of a typical project that we. Sorry, I don't know what is going on. Okay, yes, I know, sorry. Okay, now, how is a typical workflow in a project of Grupo Cursal? Okay, normally, usually the final client is a community of neighbors that wants to fix the pathologies of their building, and they want to do it through a property manager, or they can do it by themselves. Okay, so the first thing they have to do is to look for an architect that will design and will choose the best solution for their building. And in our case, it's always about the energy renovations of the facades of the building, like attics or ventilated facade. So then after this, they must start a bidding process to choose a renovation company to execute the project that has been designed by the architect. And in this step is when we have a first contact with the project, and we must study the work in detail in order to give them a most accurate budget as possible. Okay. So at this point, we already encounter several problems. For example, on the one hand, we cannot participate much in the initial design of the project because it has been done already by the architect. And so the success of the project relies a lot on the workflow of the architect. So if it doesn't work with the BIM tools, so we won't be able to do a lot of things. Also, in the other hand, and this is one of the major problems that we find in this sector, it is very common to have incomplete, outdated, or inaccurate information, which often makes it difficult to correctly calculate a budget of a work. Okay, so this is because there is no reliable documentation of the building. Many times the architects don't find the building plans, or if they do find them, they are not they are the original plans of the building that may usually it is not there are changes between the original plans and what have been constructed. Okay, so this is a very important issue for us because in large buildings, for example, since a small deviation of the dimensions, we can have a very large deviation in the cost of the works. So this is why we have to put efforts on making a good survey of the current state of the building. And also many times we don't have appropriate tools for making this survey. It is very common to work with a laser meter or making measurements to create a plan of facades. It is not enough for making, for example, the measurements of areas. So once we have made a first budget of the project, we well, they will, for example, choose our offer, and this is a project. The project starts, and we have then very tight deadlines. We have to hire the professionals that are going to carry out the works. We have to start sharing documentation with the architect, with the clients, and everyone who is going to participate in the project. So a lot of documentation is generated at this stage: plans, images, budgets, technical documentations. So it is essential for us to have a fluid communication with all these stakeholders. So we find ourselves, in summary, at the following point. Okay, we barely participate in the design phase. Our projects are not very complex, but it is important for us to have accurate plans, or accurate documentation, and we have to manage a lot of documents and resources. So we found that BIM for Rent could help us to with the management, for example, of these documentations, because BIM methodology is a great opportunity to better organize and share documents. Also, even if we don't participate in the design phase, it is interesting for us to help the architects that we work with in these phases. Also, we will be able to use different tools to better define the existing building, and this will finally stimulate the communication during the project. And finally, and very important, they have to be easy to use, okay? Because there will be many people with different skills using them, so they have to be easy. In order to test the tools, we needed to choose at the beginning some pilots to work with, taking into consideration that most of our projects are energy renovation of facades. We thought that most interesting would be to choose a project that represent these kind of buildings that are mostly energy renovations using ethics or ventilated facade. So thus we have chosen 3 pilots to test different tools. On the one hand, in the first case, we chose a baseline that would be used to compare the results that we get in the pilots. The objective in this case is to carry out an analysis of the different processes that in our company when working with, in the one hand, with traditional tools, and in the other hand, with BIM tools. The second case is here we wanted to use as well the BIM tools and digital tools, but here we wanted to focus more on the study of the impact that these tools can have in the analysis and the energy performance of a building, and to estimate the positive effect that the renovation can have in the facade. So these 3 projects have been developed almost entirely within the duration of the BIM for Rent project. At the beginning, the tools that were going to be developed within this project were presented by the different members of the project of BIM for Rent. And also we made we studied the different tools that were available in the market, so we could choose the more interesting tools for us. So in order to apply all these tools in a coherent way, we made a workflow map where it was established which tool would be used in each phase of the project and what would be the best order to do it. So the result of one tool would be the input of the next one. Okay. We have tried all the time to respect some standard formats to encourage the interoperability between tools. And the results would be some kind of Excel files, IFC files, also normal documentation, but we will for that use some standard formats. And at the end of this presentation, I will show you in detail some of these tools that we have tested, such as HIS2IFC, PFC, and Base Plus, that are the tools that have been developed by Technalia. In addition, we want to get conclusions from the use of these digital tools in our projects. That's it. We want to have a feedback that we can quantify or measure somehow to evaluate the success of a work of a refurbishment project, and we want to have these results to estimate better the future projects in Rusal. In this sense, a methodology called the KPI methodology has been developed in this project, and it is quite interesting to us, and I will talk a little bit more about this later. Okay, so we defined the first pilots. The baseline was Bercholari Chirrita in San Sebastian 2. It is a big building, a big residential building. of 15 floors. The renovation works started in 2020 and they ended 1 year later. And here we have, as we wanted to use it as a reference, we have measured different indicators, number indicators in this project. The pilot in this case was a similar building of 15 floors too in San Sebastian. It is more or less of the same period of the 70s, 60s. And also we have finished this project in 2022. Here, the main objective was to generate and use an as-built BIM model in order to calculate as accurate as possible the material needed for the works, the material that we had to buy, and to plan an optimum design of the execution of the ventilated facade. Okay, because it is a process that it is quite expensive for us, and we wanted to do it as better as possible. So in this case, the first step was to produce a reliable and accurate current state model that would allow the project managers to plan the project with confidence, or with the security that they want, that they will work with reliable measurements and distances. So to do this, the first thing that we made was a 3D scan of the building envelope using a Leica scanner, and we captured the geometry of all the facades and access the main access of the building. Also, we made the roof and some open balconies that were going to be renovated during the works. So once all the data was processed, we obtained a complete point cloud of the building that we were going to use as a geometric reference in order to make the BIM model, as you can see here. For this process, we followed a typical scan to BIM process. We introduced the point cloud into our BIM software that was auto-described. And so it has been a great, this BIM model has been a great help for quantifying the amount of material, to calculate the dimensions of the panels that had to be placed, and so that we could to make an accurate plan of the cut of the panels in the factory, so we could reduce the generation of wastes and we would be faster in the works. Okay. The next pilot, the second case, was a pilot of a big residential building. There are like three buildings in one, so it started quite late in the project, but it is supposed to be finished at the end of this year. Here, the renovation was going to be made with ethics, but our main objective here wasn't to plan exactly how we were going to execute, but to calculate the material needed for the works in order to get a better price from the professionals that were going to work there, and also to generate somehow an energy model to compare it with the monitoring data that would be made after. In this pilot project, a scanning survey has been carried out as well. We have used it for generating a BIM model, and we have done it of a BIM model of the envelope and also of some dwellings that have been monitored, and where we have placed some devices for doing the energy monitoring in those dwellings. So with this BIM model, in the one hand, we have calculated the work areas, the amount of square meters, the amount of material required for the work. And with this information, the the manager of the works has been able to get a better prices, get a better price with each professional. We have analyzed the entire budget line by line, and also we have been able to separate it into different time phases. This is a great help in order to better manage the different phases of the building and to better manage the amount of material that we have to stock in our works, and that we have to stock in our the logistic. We will improve the logistic of our projects. So in both pilots, in both cases, there have been tested different tools that we have that have been developed within the BIM4REN project. It is true that several of these tools are not properly adapted to be used during the works, because they are more adapted for early phases of a design of the project. But it is interesting to us to get a feedback to allow the developers to improve the tool and to identify those that could help the architects that we work with. So of these, between these tools, we will focus on those developed by Tecnalia. The last 3B tool, PIS, and GIS2 FSA, and Base Plus. Anyway, once we have tested all these tools, we have make an analysis of all of them, and we have evaluated the different aspects, such as usability, the speed, the ease of use, the processing speed, things like that. Okay, so the entire analysis will be reflected in the deliverable and will be published in the BIM4REN website. These three tools of Tecnalia, GIS2 FSA, Parametric IFC, and Base Plus, is like a pack of three tools that we can use in a sequence, or we can enter in different steps of this process. For example, if we didn't have any documentation of the building, we could try to go. No, but if we have his document, shape document of the building, for example, the HIS is a geometric information system that we could find some, for example, the perimeters of the building of a city. So it is a geometric database enriched with other kind of data, like the height of the building, so or the use of the building. So if we have access to some of this information, we could get a file that we can introduce in this tool in order to generate an IFC BIM model. Quite simple, but we can start working with it. If we didn't have access to this kind of file, we could enter in the second tool directly, and we can introduce the geometric form of the building manually. So it will create a BIM model based on the information that we input. So that it would create a more accurate IFC model with the facades, with the windows, with the height and the number of floors of the building. So we have a better base to start working with. And once with that model, we can start using Base Plus tool. That is, it is a tool for the decision of energy renovation alternatives using this BIM model. Okay, so depending on the results, it will lead us to choose one or another renovation depending on the more important aspect for us. Like, for example, maybe it is more important to make a cheap renovation, or to respect the CO2 emissions, or things like that. For the first one, I have there is a, or here you can see some captures of the interface, but there is a video that I would like to show you. I have. Okay. So that you can see how does it work. Okay, so as I said before, the first thing that we have to do is to locate the building. Okay, to identify the building. In this case, we did it with both pilots, with Serapio Mojica and Gastañondo pilots. And once we have located it, we can try to find it in a GIS system. Okay, so here we can see that there was a perimeter geometry and the data like the number of floors and or the height of the building. And with that file, we can we have to introduce the building ID code in order to get from this database an IFC model that will use this information. Okay, so here you can see that there is a simple but it is already a BIM model of our building that it has introduced. It has inside the number of stories or floors. Okay. So once we have this, we can introduce it directly in the next tool that it is parametric IFC generator. All these tools, they are together in a website, so we can jump from one to another directly, very easy. So we can introduce the IFC model that we have generated in the first step. We will introduce the IFC code, the IFC ID, okay, and we will introduce manually some data like the orientation, the amount or the size of the windows depending on the orientation of the facade. Okay. Also, we can introduce the thickness of the walls, the kind of the roof that it has, and it will, after a few seconds, it will create a new IFC building that it is more accurate than the previous one. As I said before, it is quite simple, but for example, we can start extracting some numbers, some statistic like the percentage of the windows on the facade, or for example, to use it for getting new renovation scenarios in the next tool. Okay, that is Base Plus. What we have seen in the video was in the case that we had an IFC model from the previous tool, but if we didn't have it, we can manually import some inputs to generate a geometric perimeter of the building with these kind of forms, like a square perimeter or like a cross perimeter. So with these steps, we can create an IFC model. Okay, the Base Plus tool, as I said, it is a tool for decision support tool for the diagnosis and data-driven design phase. So we will introduce an IFC file. We will introduce some manual inputs like the U values of the walls, like the heating system of the building, and with that, and using the E plus engine, it will generate different scenarios, and depending on the aspects that we will define as more important, it will give us different renovation scenarios. Okay, let's see another video quickly. There we have. Okay, so we will upload the IFC model. We will introduce some inputs like the location of the building, in which country and city it is located, so that it will calculate differently depending on the location. Also, we can introduce manually the U value of the walls and the heating or cooling system, as I said before. Also, we will ask him to simulate roof renovation and window replacement, for example, or the HVAC replacement. And depending on that, he will give us different solutions. Also, we can put in, we can weight differently different indicators, and we can extract an Excel file in order to use all those data more in a more advanced way. Okay, here you have. So, for example, here it is quite complex at the beginning, but here he will give us different scenarios, put in a more thick ethics system or a more thin one, or using ventilated facade. So depending on the scenario, it will be cheaper, or it will have a better impact on the environment or in the economic sustainability of the renovation. Okay. So after that, okay. So now I am going to tell you a little bit about KPI methodology. This is a method that we have developed in this project with some stakeholders of the BIM for REM project. And the idea is to have some numerical indicators that will let us to compare and to evaluate the success of a building in an objective way. Okay, to compare, for example, the process of the performance of the building once it has been renovated. Finally, we have defined a lot of different indicators. Some of them, they are more oriented to assess the process of the works. Some of them are more oriented to assess the performance of the renovated building. But in the end, they are like little mathematical equations, formulas that we can calculate, and it will give us some numbers that we can use to compare buildings. It is very interesting for us that because with this, in the early phase that we are studying a building or a project in order to get a budget, for example, depending on the indicators that we have got in previous projects, we will be able to better estimate, for example, the cost of a work, or the waste generation of a work, or we will better estimate the emissions of CO2 or the energy savings of a building. Some other indicators are some numbers that will give us like a number of the quality of the BIM process during this project, but they are quite subjective indicators that we have to introduce in a subjective way. I mean, they will say us how good have been developed the project, or how the technical abilities of the professionals that have worked in the project regarding the BIM methodology, or the BIM collaboration that has been during the project. These kind of things, we have decided also a way to define them. For our pilots, we have mainly focused on the next KPIs, that are the budget predictability, the schedule predictability, the human resources productivity, and the renovation wastage. That is because for us, they are the most important aspects, and they are the things that have a more impact in the success of our buildings. And also it has been very useful to have a BIM model and an ERP system in order to calculate all these numbers and all these indicators. Okay. And finally, to tell you that we have carried out an energy monitoring of several dwellings of this pilot. We have monitored 5 dwellings on Castañondo 1. We have monitored the indoor temperature, relative humidity, CO2, the gas consumption, and the electricity consumption. We have made it with some devices that are going to measure that are measuring the data every 10 minutes, so that we can get all this information. And for example, we have make some simulations using the TNO tool. So because we have all this data. And for example, one of the results were that we could, comparing the energy performance of the building and the renovation and the capture data from the monitoring, we can estimate how was the impact of the users, of the neighbors, and how much of those results were related to their behavior, for example, from opening a window or something like that. And finally, we are working on linking this monitoring data with the BIM model that we have developed, so that we can give this information in an attractive way to the neighbors, for example, so that they can access to the data that have been monitored, like the energy consumption or the temperature in their building. They will be able to access to that data online. Okay. And finally, some conclusions. BIM in renovation is not only a set of tools. It will have an impact in the whole renovation process. That's why we told that it is important to work with architects from the very beginning using this methodology. Also, we have realized that all these tools, they are affordable to small and medium enterprises, because they are easy to use. They are not as expensive as other typical tools. So we encourage these professionals to use them. There is a wide range of BIM-based tools, even if they are not exactly BIM, but they are related, or we could use those data to introduce them in a BIM model. And it is important to adapt the use of BIMs to suit the companies and not the inverse. Okay. So we think it is a great opportunity to these companies like ours to use this methodology. So thank you. That was my presentation.